Welcome to Xogot's modular series on 3D game development. This video will introduce working with placeholder scenes and instances in Xogot. In Xogot, we can add scenes to other scenes as copies, or what we call instances. This allows us to go into the original scene, make changes, and then those changes apply anywhere we have an instance of that scene. This makes placeholder models really easy to replace, as long as the placeholder scenes are set up properly and added as instances. So now I'm just going to create a simple wall placeholder scene. I'm going to create another node in this empty scene that I already have set up. I need to have some physics enabled. So my wall is going to be a static body. Other objects can interact with it, but the wall itself can't move, so it's static. I always like to name things descriptively. So that's all set. Next, I just need to add some sort of placeholder object. In this case, it's going to be a box shape as a mesh object. The mesh itself needs to have a size. I want to make sure I'm giving this some height, and then also making this a little bit bigger. That looks good. All right, I'm just going to give this a material that I've already created from my materials folder. There we go. And I also need to add a collider. The collider needs to have a shape. And in this case, I'm just going to go with a box shape. I need to make sure that the size fits my object, or at least the area that any other objects are going to be interacting with. It doesn't necessarily have to be a perfect fit unless that's something that matters. So that looks good. I can adjust the margin if I need to. All right, so that's great. My placeholder scene is all set. I'm going to save the scene, and I'm going to make a couple more placeholder scenes. Next up, I'm going to make a scene for my player. I'm going to have this be empty so that I can choose the root node myself. And then create. I'm going to create another node. In this case, I want a character body. So character body 3D, I'm going to add that in. And this is commonly what people will use for their player. Again, I want to name things descriptively. So I'll name this player. There we go. And for my player, I need to add the same things. So I need to have some sort of shape. Maybe my player will be a capsule. Sometimes you'll see people using a cylinder or a capsule or even a box shape as their placeholder for a player. So I'm going to go with a capsule, adding it as a mesh object. I'll leave the name as is. And I can go into the mesh settings, and from here I can adjust my size to whatever I want it to be. I think that I'm going to go with about 1 for the size and about 10 for the height. Better make sure I actually complete those changes. And over in the transform settings, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to rotate my capsule 90 degrees so that it's on its side. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit there. There we go. That's looking good. I need to have a collider. So plus collision shape 3D. Just going to leave the name. It needs to have a shape. I'm going to go with a capsule shape. I'm going to click on the shape, and I'll go with the same settings here. So I'm doing 1 for the radius, 10 for the height, and then back over in the transform settings, I just want to make sure that I rotate this the same direction. So that should now be a perfect fit. So I can save my scene. And then I have one last placeholder scene that I'm going to make. So new scene. This one is going to be for sort of a magical tree. I'm going to have this empty so that I can choose what I want it to be and create. Again, I'm going to go with a static body because the tree is going to be stationary. It's not going to move, but other objects can interact with it. This time, my placeholder is going to be using the CSG models. So I'm just going to add in a combiner. Oh, and I forgot to rename. So I'm going to take a moment to name this descriptively. There we go. And so I have my CSG container. I'm going to add a cylinder that's going to be the tree trunk. And I'm also going to, actually I'm going to just slide that up a little bit. I'll look from a side view, and I'm just going to get a little bit more zoomed out here. There we go. And I just want to make sure that the base is right on the top of the grid. So that looks great. And then I'm going to come back so that the combiner is the parent. And I'm going to add a couple more CSG objects. This time I'm adding a sphere. I'm just going to slide that up. I think I want a bigger radius, maybe a little bit smoother. So I might up that a few times. All right, next up, I'm just going to duplicate the sphere, move it over to the side, and duplicate another sphere. And there we go. That's going to be the tree. Now I'm going to give this a material. I'm going to load just sort of this gold material that I already have set up for the trunk. And then I have a green color that's all set up for the leaves. There we go. So that is all looking good. I'm going to go back so that the tree is the parent. I need to add a collider here. Now I have two options for adding the collider. If I need an absolutely perfect fit, maybe I have a flying character that could actually interact with the leaves, then I can come over to the CSG settings and bake the collision shape. Now, in this case, I don't need a perfect collider. I just need one that fits the trunk because that's the only area that my player is going to actually be able to hit. So I'm going to come over. I'm going to add my collision shape. I'm going to make it a cylinder shape. And the default cylinder is just fine. I'm going to make sure that that Y location is perfect. There we go. And my player is not going to need to interact with the leaves at all, just the base. So that will be just fine for my collision shape. One thing I want to mention when you're using the CSG objects, they are really poor for performance. So something that you can do when you have the combiner selected is you can actually bake it as a mesh instance. And so that gives you a mesh instance. And so you can hide the CSG in case you need access to it later. But now you have a mesh instance that you can use that'll be much better performing. So that's something that's helpful when you're working with the CSG objects. All right, so I can save my scene. My placeholder scenes are all set up. So now I can actually use them. So I have just my basic platform scene that I'm coming back to over here that you've seen in some other videos. And I have just a static camera set up for it. And I can add in my other models. So I think I'm just going to add the player so that you can see how that works. So I just need to find where it's been located. Now I didn't save these scenes anywhere specific, so I can always drag and drop them into a folder to be a little bit more organized, but I can literally just drag and drop into my scene here. All right, so my player's been added in. We can see that that is way too large for the actual game scene. So I'm going to want to come over to the transform settings and change the scale here. I'm going to try maybe 0.3 for the scale and see how that goes. I think that looks much better for a size there. I could probably even go a little bit smaller, but I think I'm going to live with that. Now, I click on the little icon right here. I can go back into my player scene and I can make any changes that I want to make. Like I can come over to my player here and I can add the script that I have set up ahead of time and add it to my player. I'm in my player scene and I save the scene and head back over to the instance. Notice the script is attached there. So if I go and play my game, now I can actually move the player. So that is working great, though maybe a little hard to control from just the side view there. So I can make any changes, and when I'm completely finished and I realize that I don't need my placeholder mesh anymore, I can just delete it. So now I can just come into my models folder and I have my player model, and I'm just going to add it as a child. And I just need to make sure that everything is all set for the collider. My collider is a little bit low, so I'm going to move it up so that the Y position is probably right at number 1. Something I should have been a little bit more careful about when I was making the placeholder originally was making sure that this one was set up right at the base of the grid. So if I'm looking at this from the side view, you can see that the model is resting exactly on the grid. Now my collider is resting perfectly on the grid, so that's looking great. And everything is looking the way that I would expect. If I find that there are any problems with the collision size, I can come back over here and head over into my collision shape and make any changes that I want to make. Like maybe the radius should be something more like 1.2. Let's see how that goes. That's probably a little bit more accurate. And I can keep playing around with those numbers until I'm satisfied with the size. I think the height is just fine. I can probably go, if I'm looking from the side, that's actually not bad. I can keep adjusting, but that should be good enough. So I can save my scene. And if I go into my game scene, my model has been replaced. I can play the game. I can move my model. And that's all set. So you can see just how easy working with placeholder scenes happens to be. So have some fun experimenting, and we'll be back with more videos.